A 2021 fishing boat, under 80 hours, priced 30% below what the original buyer paid 3 years ago. Clean gelcoat, one owner. And you are thinking, how is this even available at this price? Here is what is happening. Over 400,000 first-time buyers flooded the boat market during the pandemic on loans they could barely afford. The market reversed. The payments did not stop. The wreckage is sitting on listings right now, dressed up in low hours and motivated seller pricing. We picked up 3 of the most common fishing boats in that market. We did not just inspect them, we opened them up. What we found on 2 of these 3 boats should make any buyer furious. Stay until the end, because what the 3rd boat revealed changes how you shop for a used fishing boat entirely. Before the boats, you need to understand the sellers. 415,000 first-time boat buyers entered the United States market in 2020. That number represents people who discovered boating during a pandemic, bought boats they had never owned before, financed them during a period of historically low rates, and then stored them in wet slips because they had no idea that dry storage was the difference between a sound hull and an expensive repair. When rates climbed and the novelty faded, those boats went back on the market, barely used, never maintained, and carrying problems that are entirely invisible from 20 feet away. Barely used does not mean barely damaged, and low hours does not mean low risk. The most destructive thing that happens to a fishing boat is not hard use. It is sitting in a wet slip with standing water in the bilge, hardware left unsealed, and wood core materials quietly absorbing moisture every single week. The used market is full of that outcome right now. Here is exactly what it looks like inside 3 of the most common boats on it. Lund builds aluminum fishing boats, and they are among the most popular freshwater fishing platforms in the country, particularly in the upper Midwest. They also hold their resale value well in markets where they are well known. The problem we found when we opened this one up is the same issue that has been showing up on these hulls for years. Lund used plywood in the transom structure, and the sealant application on the fasteners and hardware was inconsistent from unit to unit. When the sealing fails, water enters through every bolt hole, every cap screw, every fitting that was driven into that wood without being properly bedded first. 2/3 of the transom can be completely gone, while the aluminum outer skin still looks fine from 20 feet away. That is exactly what this hull had at the motor mounting points, hidden rot. When we ran the moisture meter across the transom, the elevated readings concentrated exactly where they always do on these hulls, directly at the motor mounting hardware locations. Fasteners driven through unsealed wood create water entry paths that work silently for years with no external evidence. The aluminum skin stays shiny. The wood behind it turns to powder. Lund's warranty covers the double riveted seams for the life of ownership. The wood deck and floor coverage applies to the original owner only. Second owners get a prorated arrangement that puts most of the repair cost exactly where you do not want it. On you. On this boat, the transom moisture had already worked into the lower stringer connection. That is not a single repair. That is a complete teardown of the rear section of the hull, wood replacement, reseal, and reglass. The quote came back at $4,000 before they even talked about reglassing the interior. A transom replacement on an aluminum fishing boat of this size, accounting for the full disassembly, wood replacement, resealing, and reassembly, runs between $1,500 and $3,000 in labor alone before materials. Tracker is the entry-level brand of White River Marine Group, which is the largest manufacturer of fishing and recreational boats in the world by sales volume. Tracker boats are sold exclusively through Bass Pro Shops locations. They are the most aggressively priced aluminum fishing boats in their size class, and that price shows exactly in the places buyers cannot see at the dealership. When we pulled the bilge panel on this boat, we found exactly what keeps showing up on these hulls. Wiring runs were not properly terminated at the connections. A bilge pump float switch had salt crystal buildup that was locking the mechanism partially open. And there was weld porosity at the keel area that had allowed water to enter the hull and sit in the lowest bilge point. There are 33 recalls across the tracker model history. Electrical failures and structural weld issues are the repeating reasons. The critical detail the listing did not mention is inside the warranty itself. Tracker's limited lifetime warranty explicitly excludes galvanic or stray current corrosion, and it explicitly excludes corrosion caused by salt water. A boat that has been used in any tidal or coastal freshwater environment, including rivers connected to tidal systems across the southeast and Gulf Coast, is being used in a condition the warranty does not cover. We asked the seller where the boat had been used. He said it had been on a tidal river in South Carolina for 2 seasons. 2 seasons on tidal water is all it takes. The bilge pump housing had surface rust on the mounting bracket. The wiring behind the console had oxidation at 4 of the 7 connectors we could reach. The float switch was stuck. None of that was in the listing. The listing said excellent condition. Subscribe if this is worth knowing before you sign a purchase agreement. Everything wrong with the first 2 boats points directly at why this one is different. Ranger builds aluminum fishing boats with all welded wood-free construction. No plywood transom, no wood deck core. The entire structural interior is aluminum framework, welded in position, with closed cell foam filling every enclosed cavity to a level that exceeds Coast Guard flotation standards. There is no organic core material anywhere in the structure, nothing to absorb moisture, nothing to swell, nothing to rot. When we ran the moisture meter across every structural surface on this boat, the readings came back exactly where they should for dry aluminum construction. No elevated readings anywhere, not at the transom, not at the stringer locations, not at any hardware penetration point. That is what wood-free construction looks like on a moisture meter 3 years into its life. Ranger is not a perfect boat. Weld cracks at the bow and keel have been reported on boats used hard in rough water. Some owners have had the same weld re-crack after a factory repair and had to send the boat back a second time. Ranger's warranty turnaround time during peak season has frustrated buyers who lose months on the water waiting for a repair. These are real issues and they matter. But here is what matters more. The problems Ranger owners deal with are problems a warranty department can fix with a welder. The problems Lund and Tracker owners deal with are problems nobody disclosed at the point of sale because they were invisible inside the hull while the boat sat in a listing looking clean. A weld crack is a visible failure with a specific repair. A transom board that has been turning to powder for 3 years under an aluminum skin cannot be repaired with a factory work order. The construction methodology that uses no wood anywhere in the structure is the one that keeps its value. The numbers on resale bear that out year after year. The inspection comes before the conversation about price, not after. On any aluminum fishing boat, start at the transom, load the motor mounting points manually, and feel for any flex under hand pressure. A transom with sound wood or solid aluminum construction does not flex visibly under moderate load. Any movement means the structural backing is compromised. Pull the motor and look at the mounting bolts. Rust staining at the bolt holes on an aluminum transom means water has been finding the fastener path into the wood. On a wood core transom with aluminum outer skin, that staining is the first visible evidence of a problem that started years earlier. Pull the bilge panel before you look at anything else on the boat. Look at where the water has been. Rust staining on the interior aluminum liner confirms chronic water introduction. Look at every weld in the visible bilge area for any discoloration or bubbling that indicates moisture trapped at the joint. Lift the bilge pump float switch manually and confirm it moves freely. Check every accessible wiring terminal for green or white oxidation. A terminal with oxidation is already degrading on that circuit and may be the reason a gauge or pump did not work on the last trip. On a fiberglass fishing boat, run a moisture meter across the hull bottom, the transom face, and directly over the stringer locations before anything else. Elevated readings concentrated at hardware penetration points mean water is entering through unsealed fastener paths. The transom and the stringer connection points are the most critical diagnostic locations in any used fiberglass boat inspection, because the damage there is completely invisible until the wood is probed directly. Ask specifically where this boat has been stored and for how long. Dry storage on a trailer between uses ages a hull at a fraction of the rate of a boat in a wet slip. A boat trailered home after every trip and rinsed is a fundamentally different asset than the same make and model that sat in a marina all summer with saltwater pooling in the bilge. A boat stored in a wet slip for 2 or 3 seasons with no documented bilge maintenance and no evidence of regular inspection is a boat that has been running the moisture clock the entire time it sat there. Factor every deferred maintenance item into your offer before you write a number down. The problem is never in the listing, it is always inside the hull.